Greetings and welcome to the Gaming Codex, the show where I will be trying to explain to you all the various terms used within the video games industry, probably until entropy itself stops. There are a lot of these, and today's term is a very important one, as many of them are. It is the game engine. And what exactly would that be? Well, according to the general definition, a game engine is a software framework designed for the creation and development of video games. That means that it's a suite of components that together mesh and blend and create the infrastructure for a video game. A game engine is composed out of various parts. You have the graphics engine, the physics engine, you have the sound engine, you have the input engine, if you can call it that. Most you just call it input. You have network connectivity, and you've got a lot of tiny little itsy bitsy parts that work together to create an engine. All of these parts can either be bought from someone that made an engine wholesale, like Epic Games does with Unreal, or Unity does with Unity, or Crytek does with CryEngine, or they can be built for each and every game separately, which takes quite a lot of work and quite a lot of time, which is why a lot of people just outright buy an engine and then use it. Though they don't have to use all of it. For example, CryEngine has absolutely horrible networking. Everyone that ever tried to make a multiplayer game out of it has lamented that they use the standard networking for it, and then spent several years reworking it into something usable, which is what happened to MechWarrior Online and Star Citizen. And because all of its components can be modified to whatever degree that the person or the people making the video game itself actually understand the engine, its code base, its infrastructure, games built upon the same engine can behave totally differently and look completely different. Unless we're talking about Bethesda, who has consistently made their games look the exact same, even though they technically switch from the Gamebryo engine to the Creation engine. You kinda have to admit, it's actually just the same engine, but with a different enough name and different enough components that I don't know if they're actually licensing Gamebryo at an individual game level and haven't already just bought the code base and are doing whatever they want with it and naming it whatever they want to name it. Now, what would be the popular definition of a game engine? Well, that is the thing that makes the graphics. That is partially correct. A game engine technically is the thing that makes the graphics, but it does everything. The graphics, that's just what the graphics engine does. A graphics engine just does graphics. It just draws things on the screen. That's it. There is no input, there is no sound, there is no physics. It just draws things on the screen. That's all it does. And there is the misconception that just because something draws really pretty things on a screen, then everything done in that engine will draw stuff that's just as pretty. But that's not true, because a game engine, a graphics engine, doesn't come, some of them do, with any pre-built parts. They don't come with a make graphics button. You have to do them yourself. And depending on your ability, depending on your budget, depending on the size of your team, you may create something that looks like Crysis 4 would look. Amazing, astonishing. Or you can use the same engine to make some 2D looking thing that's just made out of paint sprites moving around. It'll be the same engine, it'll be the same technology, but one of them will just look like it was made in paint even though it's running on CryEngine. So that's why you can see, for example, Gamebryo being used in Fallout New Vegas and Civilization 4. They don't look anything alike, do they? They don't even play alike. That's because a game engine, a good one, is really versatile and can be used in many different ways. Some of you may say, well, some engines are bad. Unity, oh my god, all the Unity games are just horrible. They crash, they look so bad. Why does anybody use it? I mean, look at all, they all look horrible. Which leads us into the marketing definition of a game engine, and that would be the thing the game is powered by, on which we spent a lot of money. Some studios make their own engines. They build them outright. Ubisoft does this with Anvil, with Snowdrop, and they're using now Snowdrop, the great engine that was used in your lackluster The Division. They're using it to power the next South Park game, which is basically 2D. But for the most part, you're gonna see the Powered By logo at the beginning of games which have licensed their engine from someone else. Again, it's an example, Unity, which you may again say is a horrible engine because you've seen a lot of very, very bad games that use it. So most games that use it are bad, therefore the engine is bad. Until you realize, wait a minute, isn't Hearthstone made on Unity? And that actually looks okay. Superhot also was kind of great, and it was also made on Unity. And that Pillars of Eternity game where every screen looked like it could be framed and placed in a gallery of absolute works of art, that's a Unity game too. It's almost as if the engine is probably not as important when it comes to the final aspect of the game as the ability of the people that actually use it. So keep that in mind. Yes, engines may have issues from time to time, but you can fix them. You can work around them. There's really not that much reason for two games made on the same engine to look just the same unless you're Bethesda. And you're kind of lazy, and you're now farming out DLC to indie devs because you really can't be bothered with it. Well, that'll be all for this edition of the Gaming Codex. Come back next time when we will talk about several other terms over the course of the coming year. Many, many, many terms. Goodbye.